dear brothers and sisters, saints in Christ, welcome to a new episode. We're still in our series, the Apocrypha Books, or the excluded books, whatever you would like to call them. And in this episode, we'll be studying, and also the next one, studying whatever called the addition to Daniel or the annex to Daniel. I prefer the word the annex, okay, to the book of Daniel. I go quickly for a short introduction. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4 and also chapter 12, the Lord commanding Moses the following: you shall not add to the word which I command you, nor take from it. He's just warning him, don't add. So whatever I tell you, exactly you write. No addition, no deletion. This chapter 4, chapter 12, whatever I command you, be careful to observe it. You shall not add to it nor take away from it. Why I'm saying that? Because all these annexes or additions, you're adding. That's it. What happened? Just if you would like to add some stuff which actually, as we'll say, it's a false stuff, and you love this. So actually, yes, you love lying. So you are the servant of the devil. All right. In the book of Genesis chapter 3, the devil in the form of a serpent added just 2 letters, one word, 2 letters. Has God said not to eat from all? Yeah, it's 3 letters in English, 2 in Arabic. Just added the word not. This is added and converted the whole thing, and Adam and Eve just like they fell and they were kicked out. I would like just before we start the episode to get some introduction about when the Babylon empire appeared and when it disappeared. Okay, Nabopolassar, who is the father of Nebuchadnezzar, conquered the Assyrian empire and became the emperor of Babylon in year 626 before Christ, and it continued like that until the empire of Med and the Persian took over, conquered them and took over year 539, led by Cyrus the second. This means that the Babylonian empire continued as a great empire nearly about 87 years. Nebuchadnezzar the second was the greatest in this empire, who actually ruled for 43 years, which nearly half of it. This is since 562 to 605 before Christ. The site of Tekla assures that this Nebuchadnezzar II is the only king with this name who came in the Bible many times. You remember, 47 times, because of his great role in the biblical history. And now you remember in the Book of Judith when they began to say, Nebuchadnezzar could be a title. No, it is not a title, never been a title. Said that he is the only king with this name. All right, so let's start the episode. Of course, the introduction will need it through the episode. First of all, this annex is not in the Hebrew version of the Book of Daniel. And by the way, in this book, but it's in Arabic, in this book, which is, the title says, the second canonical books issued by Maccabi al-Mahabba, which is a Coptic Orthodox bookshop, would be the biggest one in Cairo, says that this stuff was not in the Hebrew. So, and it is a Jewish matter, so you cannot have a say about this. It's just and been like that for hundreds of years, could be thousands of years. By the way, the book of Daniel is written by Daniel, but the annexes not by Daniel, which also shows it is like insertions, is some addition that were put by someone. Especially when we come now to the stories, you will find it's definitely, even the language itself is not fitting with the language of the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel actually has 3 problems. The first problem is addition 67, how many? Yeah, 67 verses inserted in chapter 3. We'll see how they've been done, plus chapter 13, plus chapter 14. All right? By the way, the name Daniel means God is my judge, and he was also called the beloved man of God. And this annex is read during Apocalypse night. You know, in Apocalypse night, which after the Good Friday, people go back for a bit of rest and some breakfast. And by about 10 p.m. they go to the church and they keep overnight until it could be about 6-7 a.m. Reading and chanting some stuff. Daniel was born year 620 before Christ, and he passed away year 536 before Christ. This means he lived 84 years roughly. Daniel and the 3 young men were taken in the first wave of the Babylonian exile, year 605 before Christ. This means what? This means when Daniel was taken as a captive, he was a young, I would say, adult, about 15 years of age. The book of Daniel, only 12 chapters, composed of 2 sections. The first section is 6 chapters. This is 6 chapters talking mainly about the 3 young men and Daniel as people, as young people, testified a good testimony about their God, and even up to the 3 young men were even thrown into the furnace fire because of their faith, but they came out alive. And actually also they were actually premiers or governors of some cities in the Babylonian Empire, and even Daniel was considered as a prime minister. So it shows their job. They were highly profile people, and also their faith and facing even capital punishment sentences. Okay, now excuse me. The second 6 chapters are visions and dreams, including the first coming of the Messiah and up to the second coming of the Messiah. So the book of Daniel is considered as the widest prophecy about Christ. It is not the biggest, but it's the widest, because actually it has some visions and prophecies about the first coming, and it goes up to the second coming as well. Maybe you heard the word the 70 weeks of Daniel. Yeah, it's in that book. All right. So now let's take the first one. First one is the 67 verses inserted in chapter 3. Chapter 3 itself is 30 verses. Traditional people came, and by the way, in this book, after verse 23, it says the following verses were not in the Hebrew copy. So obviously it is not part of the original book. And it goes up to verse 90, which is the 67 verses, which they call it the prayer of the 3 young men. And it says, up to here is what was, whatever not in the Hebrew copy, but we have taken it from the translation of a person named Daoud Lamei. Who is Daoud Lamei? Just a translator. What's to what extent, whatever, and why did he do this? We don't know. But definitely, even in this book, they assure that this segment of 67 verses was not in the Hebrew copy. So again, so it is not in the part of the inspired book. All right. After 67, they went back again to verse 24, but will not be now 24. It was 91, so the whole chapter will go up to 97 verses instead of 30 verses. Excuse me. Now we come to the second point, which is we are going to study today the chapter 13, and next episode, God willing, we'll have chapter 14. Chapter 13 is called the story of Susanna and composed of 65 verses. All right. We will notice now that chapter 13 and chapter 14 are not written by Daniel. So someone was talking about it, about Daniel and some stuff. All right. Chapter 13 says, mentioning that Daniel was a young, whatever can today, a young adult. So he's a teenager, but like a bit more than very close to the end of the teenager time. So this means you could be like 17, 18, maximum 19 years of age. Could be. So this means what? That chapter 13, if it's talking about a story and the hero of the story is Daniel, the young adult, this means what? The chapter 13 should be what? Should be chapter 1 as a start. And when we come to verse 65, we will find another disaster to assure that this chapter definitely is inserted like in the, and is not part, definitely not part of the inspired book. And even the language itself shows it is not part of this book. Okay. So, what the story says? The story says the following. It says that in in Babylon, there was a man named Joachim. He was married to a lady named Susanna, who were a very beautiful lady, but also she is a godly lady. That her parents were godly people, and they brought her up as per the law of Moses. And Joachim, her father was named Hilkiah, and her husband was named Joachim. And Joachim was the richest man of the Jews. He had a very big house with a backyard or a garden, if you'd like to call it, attached to his house. And because of being such a prestigious person, in his house used to have two elderly Jewish people to judge for the Jewish people. All right. Of course, there's many problems with what I just said now, because these people are actually slaves in this land. They are Jewish people that were taken captives, and they are in the Babylonian Empire. So how come that those people can have their own, you can say, judging or judiciary, what's it called, like court system? How come? Like they have is it a state inside the state? You should be controlled by the laws of the country where you live. All right. Anyway, those two elderly Jewish people that used to go there every day, like to reconcile issues between the Jewish people. They were, according to the story, they were evil people. They were evil people. So what happened? Both of them, began to desire to sleep with Susanna, but no one told the other that he got this lust towards Susanna, and they are elderly people, by the way. And the story says that one day, after they finished judging and reconciling between people, they said, okay, this is good enough for today, let's go back home. Of course, everyone took his own way. But the story says that On that day, every one of them decided that he pretended they're going back home, but later on he will be coming back and goes into the garden, hoping like that to have a go with Susanna, if she comes into the garden. The story says that when both of them were coming back, they met together, and they said at that time, why are you going back? Why are you going back? I tell you what. If you are an old man and you are an evil person, or even a young man, if you're going back to the same place and you met a friend of yours with you going to the same place, what would you tell him going back? You might tell him, I forgot something. But the story, because it's a very childish story, it says once they met each other, why are you going back? They quickly, each one confessed to the other, I'm actually desiring Susanna and I'm planning to go to the garden today. I thought, wow, I'm planning the same thing because I got the same desire. He said, okay, that's fine, let's go together. Do you reckon that two people would do this, even children wouldn't do this, they will find something else. Anyway, the story went, they went to the garden, and the story said it was a hot day. Then Susanna came to the garden with two maid servants, and then she said, today is very hot, prepare me like to wash or to have a bath. I would say like a swimming pool thing. Anyway, so I said, prepared everything, and then she told them, that the maid servants, go out and shut the gates of the garden. But now the garden, the two elderly people are hiding in the garden. Okay, it's a very childish story. Anyway, because even when they came back, how did they know that she will be coming today to the garden? All right, and there will be no one. Anyway, so the story goes on and says, after they prepared here the swimming pool, I would say, or the shower, whichever, and the two maid servants went out, shut the gates of the garden. Now the two elderly just went to Susanna while she was like taking a bath or getting ready to have this. Of course, she shouted and cried, but they told her, shh, shush, don't cry, listen, we would like to have a go with you. We have the desire to sleep with you. So let it go peacefully. Otherwise, if you shout, we'll say that you had a young man with you, and when you saw us, you started shouting. So take it easy, all right? A deal? She said, no, I wouldn't agree with you, like to commit such a sin with you, even if I'm going to die. They said that's fine. Then they witnessed against her that she had an intimacy with a young man, and they saw her, and they couldn't catch this young man because he's young and he fled, but they are old people, they couldn't get hold of him. And they said actually people believed this, and they decided eventually she is to be killed. Again, they reckon some slaves in a different country, they have this power to get together and to issue a capital punishment, killing a lady, and the government doesn't know anything about that. Anyway, this all to show it is a lie. It shows now the following: on the day that they're going to perform the execution of the lady, of course she is being led, of course, and being humiliated, and her husband and her parents and also some of her relatives and some from the community going. And the story says while they were going to do this capital punishment, God moved the spirit of a holy young adult named Daniel. Again, we said because they are in the exile and he's a young man. Again, we said he went when he was about 15. So maybe if you say another young adult could be like 16, 17, 18, okay, 19 maximum. So this young adult began to shout in the crowd, I am innocent from this lady. Before I continue the story, what do you reckon now? So then they asked him, Why did he say that? He said, these guys, this lady is innocent, and these two old people are bad ones. Now, before I continue, what do you think if the 2-year-old people, evil people, who said that we saw this lady with a young man, but we couldn't catch him, and now this young man began to say this lady is innocent and the two old people are bad people? I'll call them Kohen 1 and Kohen 2. So what do you think those two old people, highly respected in the community, would do to get out of this? I would say Kohen 1 would say to Kohen 2, hey mate, is this not the young man that was with Susanna in the garden? Of course, Kohen 2 would say, absolutely, this is the man, this is the young man, to see him, but we could catch him. Hey, hold, put your hands on him. Do you think that would be the reaction? Don't you think this makes a lot of sense? Absolutely it does. But it says the people just began to say to the young adult, saying, what are you saying about? He said, this lady is whatever, she is good lady, but these old people are evil ones. Then the old people said, okay, let us, now you tell us, young man, what do you think? I wouldn't say, let us tell us what to do. Say, you are the man that was with the lady. But he said, the story says, then Daniel stopped the whole congregation and said, separate them from each other. Okay, separate them from each other. Then he asked the first one, you old man, evil person, you tell me, when they were in intimacy position, under which tree in the garden have you seen them? Then it says, the story says, he told him it was under the mastic tree. Then Daniel said, listen, take this away, bring the other one. He brought the other one, and they asked him the same question. Then the other one said, yes, I saw them in this intimacy position under the evergreen oak tree. Then Daniel said, here we go. Did you see? Their testimony is not matching. So they are the bad ones, but this is the good lady. Anyway, they quickly decided to kill the two old people. Hallelujah. End of story. Do you believe this story, brother and sister? Absolutely not. Even children will do a better one than this. Okay? I read a verse from the Bible, then I go back again to the Susanna story. Now the chief priests, the elders, and all the council sought false testimony against Jesus to put him to death. Dear brother and sister, all these people with this garment, the black whatever and the golden during the mass, and they love lying and false testimony. Anyway, so what happened? So now because now this verse 65 will even now prove that this story is definitely a false story. It's a childish one. So verse 63 says, now Hilkiah, who is the father of Susanna, and his wife, together with Joachim, her husband, and their relatives, rejoiced that their daughter was proven she is really an innocent and she's a chaste lady, and they are very happy with that. And now, so this is 64. 65 says, thus Daniel had a great reputation among the people from that day onward. Now, if we say Daniel was exiled when he was 605 and he was 15, and even if we say this story happened when he was 19, so this like 4 years after the exile, so this means we are now year 601 roughly. All right, make it 600 to make it easy for you to remember. Wow. What about verse 65 says? Verse 65 will reveal now a big disaster. Verse 65 of the same chapter, which is the last verse, we said now 64 that said Daniel began to be with a great reputation. 65 says, and King Ashtosh joined his fathers, like passed away, and Cyrus the Persian took his kingdom. So when you remember when we read in the beginning, Cyrus took over when? Year 539. So if we say now this chapter this way, from verse 1 up to verse 65 means what? This is the whole story about Daniel from since he gone to exile until Cyrus took over. This means all the life of Daniel, only this story, and that's it. All right? But listen. Now, those who were like the Orthodox one trying like to explain this, they went in different ways, but I'll stay where Father Antonius Fikri, the Coptic Orthodox one, tried to get away with this verse. He explained everything, and then he came to this verse, and they said, this verse could be an introduction to Daniel, who continued the whole time of for part of Korah's time, and he was like an advisor to him. The Catholic ones took this verse and put it somewhere else. What I would like to come out of this is the following. I'm not the only one that can understand, but some people do understand, but they still would like to leave the lie. I repeat this again. Verse 65 shows that this story definitely shouldn't be here. First of all, this chapter shouldn't be number 13, should be number 1. And even, but to make the story work, you have to take verse 65 out of chapter 13 and throw it at the end of the like nearly at the end of the whole book, right? So this means what? Some people understood, but they still would like to continue in the lie. They don't want to know the truth and follow and go where the truth will take them. Some people, they know truth, but this is not good enough. Go where the truth will take you to. All right? I hope that was interesting to you, and there is a proof that definitely it is a childish story, shouldn't be number 13, and verse 65 is also by itself is a problem. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you think the video worthwhile to be liked, do it. Share it with others if you can, please. And unless the Lord comes, we'll meet again in another episode. May the Lord bless you all. سلام عليكم.